Well, good morning, everybody. Today's video, we're going to kind of bookend this with a talk about the jet stream here. And as we just start off, one of the big things we need to be watching right now is that we have a very high amplitude wave that's diving into Southern California. And this is the one that went through California here in the last 24 hours, not only producing a tremendous amount of snow, but some very heavy rainfall. Now, this wave is being kind of amplified by the fact that there is a subtropical component of the jet that's feeding into the southern side of it. And what this is really going to do is force this system that's going to be emerging here over the next 24 hours to really scoot right along the northern edge of the fastest winds in this area. So that's what this trough is going to do. And what it's going to eventually set up here is a pretty powerful Midwestern U.S. Storm system, including some heavy snow on the northern side and a lot of severe weather over parts of the Mid-South, lower Mississippi Valley, and then over into parts of the Southeast. What will happen after that is that this branch of the jet stream, you see how it's kind of split right here. What the models are suggesting is that this is going to merge and dip pretty far to the south. And as it does so, it's going to then come across California, and that's going to really produce potentially a major flooding problem here into the middle of the month of March for California. Now, just speaking of California, this animation here shows you the infrared satellite data from yesterday into early this morning of the depth of this wave and the moisture that it has just shoved into the into the Sierra Nevada range and now down into Southern California. And over the last 24 hours, we just kind of take a look here. Let's blow this one up. We've seen here already another 18 to some places well over 30 inches of snow just in the last 24 hours hitting the Sierra Nevada, which we know right now many of the mountain ranges here where we have weather stations are currently sitting well in excess of double normal winter snowpack. This is going to be a major area of concern over the next 15 to 20 days because of the way that jet stream is going to behave. Now, in addition to that, we did add more snow to the Central Rockies. There's that short wave we talked about yesterday that came through parts of North and South Dakota, adding some more snow to this area. And then into New England, we had some heavier snows from the system that just exited. But in the last 24 hours, looking at total accumulated precipitation, the main event is going to be what just came through California here. So right now, our all hazards weather map continues to show freeze warnings for California, blizzard warnings out for the Sierra Nevada. Very, very strong winds that are coming through parts of the Southwest and then eventually getting into New Mexico and Texas where there's still red flag warning. National Weather Service this morning issued a flood watch for this area, and that's also going to be a big concern with this upcoming system. And we're going to see the National Weather Service likely increase in through this corridor winter storm watches and possibly winter storm warnings out of this next system that's going to roll through. Let's talk about the severe weather side of this first, because today the Storm Prediction Center is keeping an eye here on eastern Texas through Arkansas, northern Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee for the risk of stronger storms. But as that main wave comes out tomorrow, they've now upgraded eastern Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana into a moderate risk. So when you kind of look at their scale here, for those of you that are unfamiliar with this, this is kind of their second highest risk category. It was what was over, just for comparison, over Oklahoma on Sunday. So there's the high potential that the depth of the wind shear, the available moisture, and the instability could really produce some very powerful storms in this area. So if you're here, please keep a close eye on this. This system will actually continue to cause a severe weather threat farther to the east, and this is how things look on Friday. Big section of the southeast up through the Appalachian Mountains we've got to keep an eye on here. So let's go into the other side of the storm system. This is maximum accumulated wind gusts. Now, this is from the European model, so this is not capturing thunderstorm winds. This is capturing the synoptic scale winds due to just the large-scale pressure gradient around this low. And you notice that not only will the winds be very strong, New Mexico and Texas, but right in through here, parts of the Mid-South, getting right to where the confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi come together, almost bullseye on Memphis. The models have been honing in on an area through here that could easily see wind gusts in that 50 to maybe approaching mid-60 mile per hour range. There'll be strong winds throughout the eastern Corn Belt as well with this system. So let's go into the high-res models first. We're going to let this pick up here early this morning. So you're going to see that wave coming out of California into Arizona and New Mexico. Here's later on today that risk of strong to severe storms. So this will be late this afternoon and this evening. See it right in through there, stretching from Arkansas up into parts of Kentucky. We're going to keep a close eye on this afternoon and tonight. Okay? Now, one thing I don't want to leave off is there was a wave that came through North Dakota and South Dakota that's moving through, Minnesota and Wisconsin, adding a bit more snow. But watch the system that follows all of this. So this is now getting into Thursday midday, playing into Thursday afternoon and evening. Now if I just rock back and forth over Thursday afternoon and evening, we can now see the potential for the severe weather in eastern Oklahoma, Texas. We can see the snow developing on the backside, possibly hitting parts of Kansas. Now in addition to those severe storms, you can notice that through parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, some very heavy rainfall is expected out of this. And where that rain-snow line is going to be a very challenging forecast. Now this is just one model here, the NAM, showing you where that snow is going to be on the backside. And the NAM model, there is some agreement between it and the European on where this heavy snow is going to be, likely clipping parts of northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, southeastern Iowa, and parts of Missouri. But we do need to be aware of the severe storms that will be out ahead of this system and the extremely windy conditions that will surround it. Now I want to show you the high-res European model forecast for that heavy snow, so you can see that this is the region that it's trying to put down the heaviest snow, some of which will come over parts of Kansas before it gets here. The GFS has its heaviest snow band in this area. The NAM has it in this area. The Canadian model at one point didn't have it at all, which is a bit of a surprise, but we have seen the models bouncing this around a bit. And because this wave is still over Southern California, we could expect for this heavy snow band to move. It's trended northwest all week long. We just need to keep a close eye out on it. I'm going to default to the European model because of its performance statistics and the lining up with the high-res NAM on where it's putting down this heavier snow. Plus, if you look at the ensemble over the next week, we're just saying where of all 51 members of the European model do we see the best chance of getting at least 3 inches? And you can see it's that same corridor. So the model's ensembles are consistent with its overall operational run behavior. Now that's not the only place that's getting snow. Okay, we've got big snows coming back into the west. We still have more snow that's coming into parts of New England, and those snowfall totals could be huge. I mean, if I step this up to the probability of getting a foot of snow, now we can see where the heavy snows are going to be into parts of New England. In fact, let's just take a moment here. Let's go over to the operational European model run. Let's go back to the 0Z, and I'd like to just show you. This is total snowfall. Whoops, sorry about that. Let's go to the 10 to 1. This is total snowfall from the model through Monday, this next week. So we can see that, again, much more is coming into California, possibly well over 4 feet. We've got quite a bit coming into the Cascades, some places here 1 to 3 feet. And again, we're going to watch, we're going to watch this system rolling through here, and that could dump a tremendous amount of snow into parts of New England. And these are all areas that have not had much snow, all right? We've talked about this quite a bit. This could be hitting an area that's not seen much snow, and the snow for New England could really kind of push that area forward. But what's coming into the west is going to be very problematic, and I'm quite concerned about it. So let me show you what's going on here. If we use our 10-day forecast from the GFS versus the European, we play this forward, we're going to see that system we've already talked about. Now I want you to note that the position initially is good. Both models have by Friday morning the low sitting somewhere, or excuse me, this is really Thursday night, sitting somewhere over the Red River Valley of the South. And again, that's why we're watching this particular area on Thursday into Thursday night for severe storms. But you're going to see the blues pop out in both models. Now notice what the European is doing versus the GFS. The European's taking the low farther to the west, closer to maybe St. Louis, whereas the GFS is maybe over like Evansville. So this is a much different scenario in the position. So that places the snow in a different spot. And as we see this system going to New England, they do both agree on good snows in New England, but if you're a snow lover and you're in New York City, you're rooting right now for the GFS because the European has now taken the heavier snows farther to the north, and that system's out. Now that's just through this Saturday. I'm going to play the rest of this quickly for you. I want you just to see what's happening in the west. And what you notice here is that the flow just continues to bombard the western United States with repeated systems, and it's about to change. What I mean is we've watched these lows dive down like this and eject. We're about to get zonal flow coming into California. So over the next 10 days, this is what the precipitation looks like when compared to normal. So drier regions here versus wetter regions here. Pause it and have a close look, all right? But what we're going to have to watch out for is who's going to get the heaviest precipitation. So as we play this forward through Friday, getting into Saturday, we already see that there'll be a corridor in through here that's could easily get 1 to 2+ inches of total precipitation. It's drier west of it. Now watch the end of the animation for California. Do you see that push happening right there at the end? You can almost see it in two areas, coming in here and adding here. And the reason for that is that right now, the Pacific jet stream is going from a retracted state over by Japan to beginning an extension and heading toward the equator. And what that looks like is this. By day 10, the Pacific jet is expected to extend, brush Hawaii, and come straight toward California, and then pick up again over parts of the southeast. This has knocked out the southeastern ridge, and this is going to possibly very much increase the flooding threat through California, because the now week 2 forecasts continue to show above average precipitation here throughout the central plains and all throughout the south and southeast. Now we need this moisture in places like here, but this is an area that's going to be going over very, very wet, it looks like, into week 2. And just to kind of add to this, this is what the GFS is suggesting for week 2. Wetter in through this area, very wet over parts of the mid-south and southeast, and California, major increase in the severe in the flooding threat for that area. All right, where's it drier? North of the jet, way up here in the Canadian prairie. We need to keep an eye on that. Now, I mentioned earlier that there is a frost and freeze warning right now in Central Valley of California. This is just the next 7 days as to who's going to be looking at a frost event. So everywhere that you see in gray here, we expect overnight low temperatures to dip below freezing. So that's a lot of California, which usually this time of year we're not talking about frost in this area. But I want to show you what these temperatures are going to do. So let's go ahead and look at the high temperatures compared to average. So today, Wednesday, just almost hot in parts of the eastern Corn Belt. This is now getting into Thursday. This is when the system is moving through on Friday. So you see how challenging of a forecast this is going to be given what these temperatures are. Then we get into Saturday. Temperatures start to warm up on Sunday and into Monday in that same area. But this is all ahead of the bigger pattern change we're expecting to start middle of next week. You're going to see that right here in the temperatures over the next 15 days. Watch the colder air that's been over the west expand into the Canadian prairie, move into the plains by the time we get past the first week of March. And throughout the second week of March, we expect a lot of colder air to be moving across much of North America. And the reason for that is the jet stream is now much farther to the south. All right. So that's the big picture of things we're looking out for here through the middle of this month. In South America, just want to point out that going back 180 days, back to the beginning of September, there are places in Argentina where they grow corn and soybeans that have received about half of their normal precipitation. Deficits here, total precip 13 inches, deficit of 10. And what we see is that when we look at the NDVI data, we watched it bump up due to those rains at the end of January, but come right back down with the reemergence of the drought conditions here in parts of Argentina. Now, over the next 15 days, flooding continues in central Brazil, and this is now becoming a serious problem with the crop in central Brazil and Paraguay. This is more rain being added to an area that has been absolutely soaked with precipitation. Conditions are better in Mato Grosso, but in southern and central Brazil, too much rain. Argentina continues to show a very dry signal as they go forward, and the temperatures in Argentina, as we've been discussing, continue to increase. And right now, the latest model trends have pushed these kind of mid to late summer temperatures here almost up to 10 degrees Celsius above normal, which means this issue I just mentioned here in Argentina is going to continue to get worse as we press forward through this middle and end of their growing season. And finally, I do want to just mention La Niña continues to fade very, very quickly. The westerly wind bursts across the Pacific Ocean are an indication of all of the pattern change we just talked about, especially the loss of La Niña. I just want to let you know that over the next 90 days, we need to watch this. We've seen a lot of cold water emerge off the west coast of North America, and it's extended off the Baja of California. The point behind telling you this is that should that colder water still be there as we progress into summer, it is a drought indicator for parts of the midsection of the United States. At this point, it's just something to be watching, all right? So we'll leave it off there, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Thanks.